Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Alex and I am finally making an update video. It has been requested by so many people on Facebook, so here I am. Um, my name is Alex and I have had the PICL procedure done 4 times, and most recently I think it was in July. Maybe it was August, I forget. So it's been a few months since my fourth procedure, and there's my dog. Um, my life has been so incredibly busy lately, and a big reason for that is that I relocated from the United States to Mexico, and so I haven't had a whole lot of time to be thinking about making update videos. So a lot has changed over the last 4 months. Some things have pretty much stayed the same, but a lot of things have changed as well. But before I get into the details, let me just do like a quick recap. So I had I guess you could say, traumatic neck injury a few years ago that was caused by a chiropractor actually who gave a very forceful cervical adjustment. I didn't even go in for a neck problem, and he tried multiple times to force an adjustment that just wasn't there and ultimately did damage to some of the ligaments up there. Immediately afterwards, I started having blurred vision, vertigo, brain fog, difficulty thinking, sleep issues, just a whole bunch of neurological things. Neck tightness in my neck, scalenes, SCM, everywhere, and all of my symptoms were directly correlated to how tight my neck was. So I knew that this was caused by the chiropractor rather. So after that, I started a multi-year process of trying everything under the sun, from platelet-rich plasma to dry needling to massage therapy to physical therapy to acupuncture. Um, if you can think of it, I tried it. I worked with 5 different physical therapists, going all the way up to the head of neurophysical therapy at Anschutz Medical Center in Colorado. With this PT who had multiple PhDs, a PhD in neurology and physical therapy, and she couldn't figure it out. So um, I just sort of fell into the Regenexx program. It's a long story and I won't get into it here, but let's just say I was one of the first people in the world that had the PICL procedure. And at the time when I started it, the criteria were extremely burdensome to get through so that you could prove that you had upper cervical instability. So my upper cervical instability is confirmed by digital motion x-rays. And also, I think if you have upper cervical instability, like, you just kind of know it. You don't really need confirmation because, look, if you've got cracking, grinding, weirdness happening right up in here, then you've got upper cervical instability, and that's just that's all there is to it. Um, so, uh, what has changed? What's changed in my most recent um, round of PICL procedures? Well, I would say a few things. Let's talk about the procedure itself. I found it extremely interesting that the fourth procedure was a whole lot more painful for me than the third procedure. By that I mean I had more inflammation, and therefore I think I had more healing that I had the third time. So I think there's a lot of factors that we just don't totally understand yet. Some of it could be um, just the doctor and how good they are at doing the injection and getting into the right specific part of the ligament that's damaged. I don't exactly know. But my third procedure, I was like, wow, hardly feel a thing. I took pain meds for one day and that was it. This one, I was on pain meds for a solid 5 days, which for me was it's pretty dramatic, and I do not like pain meds at all. So it was not fun. Um, Let's talk about first my neck tightness, because a lot of my neurological symptoms are directly correlated to my neck tightness. So overall, my SCM, so that's this muscle right here. My SCM, by and large, is it's probably tighter than most people's, but it's not super tight. It's not super inflamed like it was more tight and inflamed than it was before. Um, I will massage it every few days, which is probably good for everyone who works at a computer all day, but it's not, it doesn't have trigger points all the time. And my scalenes, which are these muscles here on the side, they have shown a dramatic reduction in tightness. Now, since my last injection, I've had a couple more muscles that I didn't even know existed where sort of the tension and the trigger points have migrated too. And it's totally wacky. So there's like this muscle that connects somewhere in the neck, I forget the name of it, and it connects right up in here in the jawbone, and it's real kind of deep. And it's sort of like a mandible bone. Anyways, if I overuse my neck, it gets real tight up in here and I have to massage it. But it's not really painful. It's not causing me too many issues. So look, a few years ago, I was unable to like think critically most of the time. It was just like everything was a haze. And then through the procedures, I got to a point where like, okay, 80% of my days I was fine, but then I'd have one day a week where it's just like forget about working, just go home, lay down, get an infrared heating pad, put it on your neck, don't do anything. At this point in time, if I do something that upsets my neck, as I'm doing it, I'm like, yeah, I'm probably going to regret this later. And then I'll go home, I'll use my handheld massager, which if you don't have a wireless, like really nice high power massager, you really need to get one. Spend 100, $200. It's the best money that you can spend. If you have upper cervical instability, combined with an infrared heating pad. But if I do something that upsets my neck, I know it as I'm doing it. And when I go home, I'll massage my neck. And maybe at this point, I'll have like 20 minutes where I sort of relapse into that, oh God, I'm flared up. This does not feel good. But if I lay down, I support my neck, I just put on some music or a video and I just sort of massage my neck, we're good. Okay. So am I perfectly recovered? No, I'm not perfectly recovered. Like, can I go do gymnastics? Not that I was doing gymnastics before, anyways, but can I do cartwheels and gymnastics and headstands? Probably not. Probably not. I don't want to do that. But I can do so much more than I could before. I mean, just getting out of bed and like walking around would cause me issues. So it's a pretty substantial change. Now, I want to talk about the actual instability itself, which is like the bones, like the bones and ligaments sort of moving around one another. So it used to be like constant popping and grinding before I had any of the procedures, and that sort of decreased, throughout my experience with the procedures. Now, after the third procedure, I would only have instability right here on the right side, sort of C1, C2, and generally speaking, my issues would flare up if I had side to side bending. So bending my head to the left and right. I'm not going to show you that because it, like what I'm talking about, you sort of get the idea. Because if I bend my head still, that can create issues for me. Now, um, after the third procedure, I would have instability kind of still pretty frequently, like a few times a day. At this point in time, in terms of like big cracks, big pops, um, what's interesting is it's not just side to side motion, it's really forward, backward, and then side bending. That can cause some sort of crack in my neck. And if I do that, if I create a crack sensation in my neck accidentally, because I'm not trying to do it, then I know that I'm going to have symptoms 1 or 2 hours later. So I really just have to go lay down and then begin massaging my neck and not flare anything up. So in terms of the mobility of my neck, I mean, look, I don't have screws in my spine, which I think a lot of people would have if they didn't have this procedure because they'd get a spine fusion. But like, look, I can do that. I can do this all day, and I'm not going to have any issues. I don't have any cracking. I don't have any grinding. But we start looking down, we start looking up, we start doing any sort of side bending. I'm using my shoulders because I don't want to bend my neck. I'm going to have problems. Um, Now, what's interesting is when I started this, and I thought I was going crazy, but now that I've had this procedure done 4 times, like nothing surprises me. So When I first started this, I had a lot of tension and tightness and pain throughout my entire spine, throughout my whole body, okay? From top of my head down the right side into my trapezius, down into my right iliopsoas, which is like right up in here, down into my right piriformis, down into my right leg, and down into my right foot. And my right foot was just always in pain. Okay, it was always tight. Um, well, after the first procedure, sort of the iliopsoas stuff went away. The piriformis and hip stuff went away. After the second procedure, a lot of the trapezius and sort of, I still have a little bit of trap tightness, but it's not anything like it was. Or all the trap tightness went away. Um, the third procedure, I still had tightness in my foot that just wouldn't go away no matter how much I massage it. After the fourth procedure, I no longer have tightness in my right foot, right? Now, that being said, my body is still compensating for some sort of instability on the right side of my body. And I know that for a fact because when I walk, when I bike, when I do exercise at all, my right leg is way more dominant. And so that's something that I'm working on fixing. I think it's a pattern that my body adopted throughout all of this instability, and I'm working to reverse that. But still, I think there's some reason why the right side of my body is trying to overuse the muscles compared to the left side. But day to day, I don't really have pain. I mean, after I exercise, I have to foam roll, and if I don't, there's a chance that I have knee pain on the right side of my leg. But look, that's probably not too atypical compared to most athletes out there. Would I consider myself an athlete? I don't know. That might be stretching things. But I do exercise and I do try to live a healthy lifestyle. So let's talk about exercise because that is a pretty substantial change for me as well. So I have a Peloton bike. A Peloton bike is like a stationary bike indoors. Um, I have been using a Peloton since February of 2020. It is now November 2020. And um, when I was using the Peloton, I would always have to wear a hard cervical brace. That hard cervical brace is not super fun to wear when you're exercising on a bike. But if I didn't wear that and I came out of the saddle, and when we say come out of the saddle when we're riding a bike, we mean like you're standing up instead of just like sitting down, like you're climbing a hill, sort of. That would give me a flare up for a very, very long time. And even wearing a cervical collar, it would still give me issues. But it didn't even matter, even if I wasn't coming out of the saddle, if I was just sitting on the bike, just sort of pedaling stationary, not having too much fun or doing anything crazy, it would still give me a flare up, which is crazy. And I don't totally understand why, but I think there is just enough sort of side to side motion, which if you do it for 20, 30 minutes, it can cause a flare up for me. So, what's changed? Well, after the third procedure, I had to wear a cervical brace. As of right now, I do not wear a cervical collar at all when I am on my Peloton stationary bike. However, I do not come out of the saddle. And that's okay. Okay. Look, all things in perspective. Am I perfect? No. Am I like fully recovered? What does fully recovered mean, right? To some people, that means doing a headstand. There's literally like an Olympic athlete in our upper cervical instability Facebook group. Like fully recovered to her is going to be totally different from fully recovered for me. Some of you guys are just like, if I can just sit at a computer all day, then I'm going to be happy. And let me tell you, 4 years ago, I said, if I can just work and sit at a computer and not do anything physical at all for the rest of my life, I will just be so happy. Well, I'm telling you, I got there and now I'm pushing myself further. And so, I want to use my body. I want to enjoy my body, but I don't want to overdo it as well. Um, so let's talk about other sort of day-to-day activities. Well, the streets in Mexico, I don't know if you've ever been to Mexico, the streets in Mexico are extremely bumpy, and it could be for all sorts of reasons. Like there's big ass potholes. It could be because the streets are made of cobblestone. Um, look, it's Mexico. So when I first got here in the car, I was like, okay, this is going to be a real interesting challenge for my neck because it's all over the place. Like it's pretty bumpy here. And surprisingly, my neck has done fine. Now, my neck has been good enough to where I decided to rent a motorcycle because I haven't ridden a motorcycle in over half a decade because of my neck. And it was very interesting to me. I have no problems riding a motorcycle in town as long as I'm on paved roads, which for all of you Americans and everyone else in not Mexico is like, what do you mean not paved roads? Like, okay, the roads are not exactly paved here all the time. So as long as I'm on paved roads and not cobblestone roads, then it's fine. I can ride a motorcycle. Even like dirt roads are okay, but the cobblestone roads, my neck is like not cool with cobblestone roads. My neck does not like cobblestone roads. So I'm still going to buy a motorcycle. I'm planning on getting one in a few weeks. They're so cheap here because it's very convenient to ride around town with a motorcycle because parking is terrible. Um, but I'm only going to use it on an as needed basis. Otherwise, I'm just going to walk or take the car. I live in San Miguel de Allende, which is a small enough town, and I walk around most of the time, anyways. So let's see. We talked a little bit about the history. The instability has sort of gotten better. My neck tightness has gotten better. My exercise, one question that I've been asking myself is, am I going to get another procedure done? And at this point, it's like, I don't know. And I don't know if Dr. Schultz would even give one to me at this point, because I think from his perspective, he's like, look, you're golden child. You're a golden child. Like you're so much better than you were. Just take what you've got and leave it. But there's a chance that maybe a year from now I give him a call and say, look, I am very interested in having this done one more time so that maybe I can be even more athletic. I don't know. Um, I think it's unreasonable for someone to think that their neck is going to be perfect, but I think that you can come a really long way with this procedure. Um, I get a lot of comments, a lot of messages on Facebook. I have a lot of calls with people who are thinking about having this procedure done. Um, Look, I'm in the upper cervical instability Facebook group. My name is Alex Oxford, like the school, Oxford. You can find me on Facebook. You can send me a message. I'm generally pretty open to talking with you if you're interested in having this procedure. But look, this procedure is not cheap, okay? Like, if I was not doing okay for myself in my financial life, then I would not be able to have this procedure done. And also keep in mind that the first two procedures I had were free for me. So at this point, I've probably spent like $20,000, not 40,000. But these things are like 10K a pop when you consider time off from work, travel, hotel, like the procedure itself, the DMX scan, just budget $10,000, and insurance is not going to cover it. So, I think that Regenexx is a lot better at understanding who's going to be a good fit for this procedure and who's not, and I don't think they're going to waste your time, but at the same time, they can't really guarantee anything. But if you can afford it, what I say is, what do you have to lose? Because your only other alternative is a spine fusion, and you don't want a spine fusion. Like you just don't want one. That's like the stupidest thing you can do to yourself if there's an alternative. But if you're poor and like, look, there's nothing wrong with being poor. Okay, I was homeless in college for 2 years, and you can always create whatever life you want for yourself. Particularly in America, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy or that it's going to be a clear-cut path. But I understand if this procedure is out of reach for you. All I can say is I wish it was cheaper and I wish it was more accessible. Um, and it's an unfortunate reality that this procedure is not cheap. And I don't think that we talk about that enough. It's kind of an expensive white person procedure. Like I'm just saying that. Like I wish that we had this procedure more available to minorities and people and other nationalities. I mean, there's so many people in like Germany that message me or like New Zealand, and they're like, for them, it's not even like $10,000. It's like $15,000 because you have to tack on airfare both ways and multiple very expensive web conference calls, which are like $500 for 30 minutes with the doctors. Like, this is not a cheap procedure to have. But has it been worth it to me? Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I would have spent 10 times as much. I'm glad I didn't. I'd be like bankrupt right now. But um, if you had the sort of severe neurological issues that I had, you would spend any amount of money to feel somewhat normal. And well, what does normal mean? I don't know. I'm definitely not normal by a lot of different standards. I mean, hell, I don't even live in the United States. Um, but at least from a proprioceptive upper cervical standpoint, I'm getting back to normal. So, um, thanks for listening. I hope this video has helped you. I do get a lot of messages. I do have a lot of phone calls. If you have this procedure done, one thing that I'm really pushing everyone to do is you got to talk about it. You've got to go out there, you've got to make videos, you've got to write about your experiences, you've got to share your experiences with others because I can't do it all, right? And every single patient experience with this procedure is totally unique. 1 millimeter of an overhang in one direction or one degree of rotation in a different direction, totally different symptoms for someone else. This is the wackiest thing ever. So the more that you can talk about it, write about it, share your experiences with others, the more you're going to be able to help others. And it costs you nothing. It costs you nothing. And if you have benefited from this procedure, you really owe it to humanity, I think, to help one another because I know what it was like when everything was just a haze. And if I had known, this is, people think I'm a little bit of a cheerleader for this procedure. I am. If I had known that this procedure existed sooner, uh, well, actually, the procedure didn't exist sooner. I was like one of the first people in the world to have it done. But I just found it by total luck, just by total luck. And so, uh, if you can find someone that can benefit from this procedure and they just don't know about it, you could change their life. You really can. Um, at the same time, we have to balance, promoting personal experiences we've had with this procedure with saying that there's a lot of things that are unknown and we don't know who's going to be a perfect candidate. The doctors are still trying to figure it out. And I don't think that there's any magic bullet. So thank you for listening. I hope this helps. And good luck with everything.